Alright everyone, welcome to 6.2 matrix operations, and this is example B. What we're looking at from the last section, example A, was looking at scalar multiplication, which means you take a number, multiply it by a matrix, and that way it's just that number times each element in the matrix. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at what happens if we have a matrix times a matrix. What do you do it? How do you do it? What does it look like? To give some context to this problem, we're going to use this one, so read along with me. The school cafeteria offers a choice of ice cream or frozen yogurt for dessert once a week. During the first week of school, 220 students choose ice cream and 20 choose frozen yogurt. During each of the following weeks, 10% of the frozen yogurt eaters switch to ice cream, 5% of the ice cream eaters switch to frozen yogurt. How many students will choose each dessert in the second week, in the third week? All right, so what I've done so far right here is I drew a transition diagram of how that looks, right? So just remember, here's ice cream. 95% are going to come back to ice cream, 5% are going to go over to frozen yogurt, 90% are going to stay at frozen yogurt, and 10% are going to switch. Alright, so what I did was I started with 220 and 20. That is my initial matrix. That's where we're going to start. Alright, so let's just call that initial matrix. Okay, that's what we are starting with, how many initially of each type there are. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put in the transition matrix. Transition matrix. Okay, and that means basically the diagram that we drew, that we made, now we're going to put into a transition matrix. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to say, because I started with ice cream, right, ice cream is here, and the frozen yogurts were here. I'm going to put them in green. I'm just going to do FRYO. Alright, that way we know which one is which. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the ice cream. Who started with ice cream and who stayed with ice cream? So we know that 0.95 stayed with the ice cream, right? And then underneath it, I'm going to write down how many switched to ice cream from frozen yogurt. That's going to be 0.10. So this column is going to be how many are going to be, oops, and let me just use the right color here, that way I have a nice color coordination. How many are going to be in ice cream at the end? Alright, I know I spelled it wrong, you don't have to tell me about it, that's okay. Alright, so we know that 95% stay there, 10% switch to ice cream. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do how many switched from ice cream. We're kind of sticking with the same theme. Started with ice cream and moved over to frozen yogurt. We know that it's 0.05 switched from ice cream to frozen yogurt. And at the bottom we're going to say how many stayed at frozen yogurt. 0.90. Alright, and then that is our transition matrix. And we can close it. Now if we multiply those two things together, what we are going to get is our answer is going to be how many are in ice cream and then how many are in frozen yogurt for not necessarily after the first week. This would be the second week. Alright, and then we can close our matrix. Okay, so what we have here again is this is how many are going to change from ice cream to ice cream. This is how many are going to change from frozen yogurt to ice cream. This one is how many change from ice cream to frozen yogurt, and this one says how many stay at frozen yogurt. So it's our initial matrix, our transition matrix, and then this one, part C, we'll call this matrix C, and we'll call the other one matrix B here. Let's use blue because we did that before. Transition matrix B. And C is going to be what I would call the answer matrix. Answer matrix. Alright, so notice how we have A times B equals C. A is our initial matrix, B is our transition, C is our answer matrix. We're doing this one times this one. Now it's a little bit confusing because what we're going to do is we're going to take the ice cream, we're going to multiply by who's going to be the ice cream, which is not across. It's not the blue ones, it's these who are changing to or staying at ice cream. So what I'm going to do to make myself remember this, because I know that if I don't do this sometimes I'll forget, is I'm just going to draw a little dashed line down the middle to remind myself that it's going to be 220 times those numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is 220. So if I actually multiply these out, I'm going to do the 220 times the 0.95. 0.95. Right, that's the first one. This one times this one. Okay, and there we go. And then I also know that that's how many are going to stay at ice cream. I have to add that to how many are going to do ice cream and change to ice cream? Right? Yes. So it's going to be plus 20, because 20 of them are from frozen yogurt, and they're 10% of that number is going to ice cream. So it's going to be the 20 times 0.10. Okay, so you see how I did that again? I kind of maybe made that a little bit unclear. It's not the 220 times 10, or the 0.10. 220 times 95, because that's how many are staying at ice cream. And then 20 times 0.1, because that's how many are changing from frozen yogurt to ice cream. So this number is how many are in ice cream, right? Now we're going to do the same thing again. Let's use a different color. Let's use red this time. Now we're going to use the 220. We're going to multiply by 0.05, because that's how many of the 220 ice cream eaters at first are switching over to frozen yogurt. So this part here is the first part of my matrix, so I'm not going to add or subtract anything. This is now going to be for the frozen yogurt. It's going to be 220 times 0.05. That's how many are switching from ice cream to frozen yogurt. And then let's do this one. How many are staying at frozen yogurt? 20 times 0.90. So I'm going to add 20 times 0.90. All right, and that right there is the beginning part of the answer matrix. Okay, right there. Now all I have to do is calculate those numbers and clean it up. All right, so let's do that. 220 times 0.95. I don't have to put in the 0, and you will get 209. So there'll be 209 who are still eating ice cream after that first week. And then I'm going to also do the 20 times 0.10. Yes, I know I don't need to do that. It's going to be 2. So we have, it's going to be 209 plus 2. And then we have the other one, 220 times 0.05. 220 times 0.05. It's 11. So we're going to have 11. I'm just going to make this much smaller. And 11 plus 20 times 0.9. 20 times 0.90 is 18. So that one is here. It's going to be 11 plus 18. And then I can close my matrix and clean it up a little bit more. All right, so 209 plus 2, we should get a total of 211. And 11 plus 18, that should be 29. Okay, so I can close my matrix. And 211 is the ice cream eaters. And 29 is the frozen yogurt. All right, if I add those together, I should have the same amount. I have 240 students total. I still have 240 students. So that would be for the second week. Now the other part of the question asked you, what about the third week? Could we do that again? Yes, you could. And so I'm just going to set it up. We're not actually going to fill that whole thing out just because I will have the answers up for you at class, but I'm not going to actually go through that all again. So what we would do is we'd take that matrix again. So it would be 2, 11, 29. And I would multiply that by my transition matrix that we already have. I'm just going to rewrite it as 0.95, 0.05, 0.10, 0.90. It's going to go here. And again, remember, you're going to multiply down. So it's going to be 211 times this one, 29 times this one. And you're going to add those together. 211 times 0.95 and plus 29 times 0.10. So that's going to be the first part of the matrix, and then we're going to do the same thing again. 211 times 0.05 and 29 times 0.90. So it's going to be 211 times 0.05 plus 29 times 0.90. And that would be my matrix. Okay, so you just multiply those numbers and add them together. You notice why we add them, because it's how many were ice cream from the first one and how many are changing to ice cream from frozen yogurt. That's why we're adding. It seems a little confusing if we don't get some context to it. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll have the answer for you later, but here is your assignment. I would like you to multiply these two matrices to get an answer matrix. 5, 11, and then this matrix 6, 4, 3, 1. I always read them right to left. I drew this in there just to remind you what you should do. Good luck.